உங்கள் பிள்ளைகள் 10th மற்றும் +2 CBSE ஸ்டேட் போர்டில் படிக்கிறார்களா? அவர்களை அதிக மார்க் வாங்க வைக்க ஈஸி வழி. Chanakyaa International Academy Online Coaching Center for all subjects. Contact 7823910123.
Honorable Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, மாண்புமிகு தமிழ்நாடு முதலமைச்சர் அவர்களுக்கும், Honorable Industries Minister, மாண்புமிகு தொழில்துறை அமைச்சர் அவர்களுக்கும், Mr. Suresh Kumar, Chairman IBPC Dubai, His Excellency Jamal Saif Al Jarwan, Secretary General of the UAE International Investors Council, Consul General of India to Dubai, Mr. Raman Puri, Mr. Yusuf Ali, Chairman and Managing Director of the Lulu Group International, my colleagues in the Indian delegation, and above all the investors present here this afternoon. You've had a glimpse of what Tamil Nadu offers, and I'd like to take you through another quick presentation on the further strengths of the state. At the outset, we came with great expectations and hopes, particularly participating in the concluding week of the World International Expo, and at the same time with the deep links between India and the UAE, and we are very gratified to hear from the Secretary General of the UAE International Investment Council that they would be leading a delegation to Tamil Nadu very soon. We would welcome the delegation heartily and take it forward. As has already been pointed out, India's improved business rankings across the world make it a very significant investment destination. And within India, Tamil Nadu is probably one of the fastest growing states. India happens to be one of the fastest growing economies globally, and Tamil Nadu is one of the fastest growing states within India. And India and the United Arab Emirates, the comprehensive economic partnership agreement actually presents a significant opportunity, not just to expand trade relationship, but investment relationships as well in both ways. The CEPA will of course no doubt increase the trade, and we expect strongly that it will increase the investment relationships. Tamil Nadu also happens to be one of the most globalized state-level economies in India in terms of the proportion of exports and imports from the state, and therefore the tie between the United Arab Emirates and Tamil Nadu is but natural. The opportunities for investment, I would like to focus on certain specific sectors this afternoon. The general picture is of course available. Food processing is a very critical sector in Tamil Nadu, as is textile and apparel, footwear, and gem and jewelry. Of course, as I mentioned already, it's one of the most desired destinations, primarily, number of factors, primarily because of the quality of the workforce. The quality of the human resources is what sets Tamil Nadu apart. We have the highest gross enrollment ratio in higher education. It's even higher than the United States. In addition, we also have adequate land available right now. We have gathered together an adequate land pool. All the necessary industrial infrastructure and connectivity can be made available very rapidly. We are power surplus right now. The internet cables land at Chennai in the Indian subcontinent, and therefore internet connectivity is one of the strongest. A large number of investors have already found Tamil Nadu as their place of choice. A large number of global Fortune 500 companies are already there. You name them and they are there. And I already mentioned about the infrastructure, railway, road connectivity, 6 airports, 4 of them are international airports with direct flights to different destinations in UAE. On an average, from Chennai itself, there are about 15 flights into the UAE and also from across the state. And 4 large commercial seaports. It's already mentioned that DP World, which is a UAE-based company, has one investment going at Chennai port and another one starting very shortly at Thoothukudi port, and that will be an important game changer in the way that the two countries and the two economies would relate. And I mentioned about the availability of a future-ready skill force in Tamil Nadu. Our overall position in terms of human development index amongst the large states is very, very high. It's the second. A large number of smaller states, of course, are there. But overall workforce and the number of educational institutions which come out of there, both in terms of shop floor level workforce and also the upper end workforce, the higher end workforce in terms of research, development, IT and ITES, Tamil Nadu is parallel. Even if you go to neighboring states, about 30% of the workforce is derived from Tamil Nadu. And I'm sure you've seen the quality of the workforce derived from Tamil Nadu here itself in the UAE. The key opportunities, one of course, is the petrochemical and chemical ecosystem where the Gulf states are well entrenched and they are well aware. We have a number of chemical factories which are linked both to the organic sector and the inorganic sector. And in the organic sector and petrochemical linked industries, we are expecting significant further growth and development because of the newer investments that are about to be grounded in the state. Chennai Petroleum Corporation is already building a petrochemical complex at a place called Nagapatnam along the coast of Chennai. Haldia Petrochemicals is about to commence the construction of a petrochemical complex near Kadalur, also along the coast. And the Al Kharafi Group from Kuwait is planning an investment at Thoothukudi. So there are going to be three major petrochemical complexes which will lead to a lot of major players from the petrochemical sector coming in, and Dubai and the Middle East being the epicenter of the petrochemical industry, we would expect that many of them would evince interest in that area. Food processing is the other big sector. It's often an unspoken of sector in Tamil Nadu. One of the remarkable transformations which has taken place in the last 5 years or so is the increasing share of livestock linked production. Poultry, milk, dairy products, egg, and so on, compared to the overall even crop husbandry production. Today, the livestock linked production in Tamil Nadu is larger. The value is larger than crop husbandry linked production. And I think it presents an unparalleled opportunity of establishing units which can process a lot of that food and for supply into across the world, including into the Gulf region. Whether it is fisheries, marine products, whether it is poultry and egg-related products, whether it is grain-related products, a whole range of food processing opportunities present themselves. And given the fact that they can be established close to the coast, it's easy to ship from there into the efficient ports here in the UAE. Likewise, a number of companies are already established there. Britannia, Tata Consumer Products, ITC, leading players in India. Similarly, Lotte, the Korean player, they're all there. And we are establishing a number of mega food parks across the state which would enable this to happen. 3 are already under construction and the remaining will be coming up in the next few years. And this is certainly a huge opportunity for investment for UAE companies. The textile ecosystem was already mentioned in the presentation as to how extensive it is and how critical it is to the overall global supply chain linkage. Companies from Tamil Nadu are part of the global supply chain of textiles, both in the United States and across Europe, and they could very much be part of what happens here in the UAE as well. And this is an area where I think the investment would yield quick returns for anybody who gets into this. Many of the top brands, as you can see, all the branded textiles are sourced out of Tamil Nadu. The new areas which are coming up, especially, are technical textiles. In the pandemic, companies from Tamil Nadu were able to supply a range of protective PPE kits, primarily based on the inherent strength. At very short notice, they were able to put that up very rapidly. Renewable energy. If you looked at the renewable energy capacity in Tamil Nadu, it's the 5th highest globally already as a state, not just counting what happens in the rest of India. And it's clearly the largest in Tamil Nadu, in India. Both the capacity in terms of wind energy, where we are an early starter, and there is a substantial opportunity in terms of re-energizing existing wind fields to increase the total capacity of wind, and also in solar energy, where solar insolation in some parts of Tamil Nadu is amongst the highest. And the entire ecosystem of renewable energy, both in terms of manufacture of wind turbines or solar cells, solar photovoltaic batteries, is coming up in Tamil Nadu substantially. So this is again a significant investment opportunity in the state which can take it really forward. Then, as I mentioned already, the wind and solar farms, the possibility of setting hybrid power plants, the possibility of linking it to desalination, all these are important opportunities. Desalination of water is an important linkage between what happens here in the UAE and what we have in Tamil Nadu. The largest desal plants for drinking water supply in India are based out of Tamil Nadu and more under commissioning. And this is another area where we can mutually learn from each other, and many large companies are already engaged there, and there is of course room for many more to come in. What was already mentioned in terms of industrial parks and clusters, we have the largest extent of industrial service land which is currently available. But we realize that investors' demand for service land keeps increasing, and the quality of what they want in terms of plug-and-play facilities also keeps going up. We have a number of investors who come to us and say, a few years ago, they would say, we'd be happy if we can start production in 12 months' time. And many of them did it simply because of what the state was able to facilitate. Very large factories were set up in 10 to 11 months in Tamil Nadu. But now they want to beat that record and say, we want to start production in 3 months' time. So can you create a situation of plug-and-play facilities? Can you create a situation where a new factory could be built to us within that time span? And this is where I think a number of private operators who develop industrial estate ecosystems can also collaborate with us to make this a reality. So it represents both an investment opportunity in itself and the opportunity to bring in fresh investment where factory operators or manufacturers require this facility on an urgent basis. And it's a range of investments. It could be a fabric making unit, it could be an electronic hardware manufacturing unit. A number of them are requiring this of us, and our state industrial promotion agency, the SIPCOT, has industrial land which they could share on a joint venture basis to enable the development of plug-and-play facilities. We have industrial parks and clusters spread out all over the state, and that's the other remarkable feature of Tamil Nadu. Unlike many other states in India, the geographic spread of development to different regions of the state. Chennai, which is a state's capital in the northern end, is probably the most industrial part. The Hosur-Bargur industrial belt, which adjoins the neighboring state of Karnataka and near Bengaluru, has another big concentration of industries. The western belt of Tamil Nadu, which comprises Coimbatore and Erode, is again an extremely strong homegrown industrial belt. And likewise in the southern states, in southern parts of the state, particularly around Thoothukudi, where the mega furniture park is also being established, represents another strong industrial base. This geographical spread ensures that human resources and other infrastructure is easily available at all of these locations, and you have ports spread throughout all along the coast. So which means you have 3 ports next to Chennai. You have the Thoothukudi port, which offers one of the fastest clearances, and with DP World coming in will even speed up further. So the opportunities are tremendous. Like I already mentioned, the industrial parks and clusters will be a critical area where there could be considerable investment in that area. There are some companies from this part of the world who are engaged there already, and we welcome more of you to come in to establish as a real estate play industrial parks, clusters, and so on. Likewise, the retail ecosystem in Tamil Nadu is one of the best developed across India and rapidly growing modern retailing. And this is an area where a number of players can invest further. It is an area where within the overall regulatory framework, it should be possible to establish retail links which will give you an adequate foothold and also ensure that there's substantial local sourcing, primarily because the economy of the state from a manufacturing and agro-processing perspective is very, very diversified. I've already mentioned there's again, the construction opportunity in terms of the malls and the convenience because of the preference for modern retail in the state. It's one of the preferred destinations for many companies from within India as well. Then as far as fintech and IT and ITES is concerned, we are a leading state and we have a fintech policy which intends to make Tamil Nadu the leading destination for fintech investments, because we are virtually today the back office for all financial operations for major banks and major financial institutions of the world. This is an opportunity which can expand significantly further. It forms two parts. There's one, the human resource part, of which Tamil Nadu abounds in, and you can find adequate people whom you can employ. The second part is quality real estate and quality office space development, which is something which Tamil Nadu can easily do in a significant way. The data centers are the newest field which are developing significantly there, primarily because of the two undersea internet cables which land at Chennai. It's a huge opportunity that can come in that area. Similarly, the global capacity centers, if there is one place in India or any one place in the world where you can upscale the operations from BPO to global capacity centers, it's Tamil Nadu, simply because of the quality of the human resources which are available there. So that is clearly something which can happen. And similarly, R&D centers, research and development centers, are an area where we can significantly expand. A large number of these R&D centers are already there, and more of them can come into that space. The EV ecosystem, I would fail if I didn't mention it. It's a completely emerging area. More than 1/3 of the total EV investments which are taking place and production of two-wheelers, EV two-wheelers, three-wheelers and cars, and eventually even buses. You very often see Ashok Leyland buses here in Dubai as well, and Ashok Leyland's home base in India is Tamil Nadu. And we are expecting that they will make their investment on the EV buses as well in Tamil Nadu very shortly. And that will be a significant add-on to that investment. But both to supply those kind of vehicles into the UAE, EV vehicles into the UAE, and to expand the capacity there, there's a significant investment opportunity which can be taken advantage of straight away. Equally, battery manufacturing, lithium-ion battery manufacturing, there's a very attractive production-linked incentive scheme which has been declared by the Government of India. Those who have won on that production-linked incentive scheme are already in talks with us to make their investments in Tamil Nadu, and there would be many others simply because they perceive that there is a large market, many others who want to make the investment there. So this again, both as an investor in an emerging sector, just as a financial investor or as a real operating investor, there's a huge opportunity of making investments in this growth center. We have the Industrial Guidance Bureau, which is in a sense organizing even this event. We handhold and facilitate every investment that comes into Tamil Nadu end to end from the time that you walk into the state for the first time till the time that you actually start production, and even later, whatever little headaches that you may have from time to time, they are the ones who resolve. And Tamil Nadu is one state, I can assure you, which is determined. I mean, since we already have a large base of investors from across the world, we are a state which is determined to ensure that rather than us speaking for investment opportunities in the state, it is the investors who are already there who speak up for the state in terms of the manner in which we take care of their interests, manner in which we ensure that their issues are resolved in a speedy and timely fashion, and the manner in which they get their treatment there. And I can assure you that practically every investor who's come into Tamil Nadu has run a profitable business and has been able to take back their profits, and oftentimes not just take back their profits, but reinvest it in further expanding their businesses there. We've always had them come back for second investments and third investments, and I'm sure if you ever walk into Tamil Nadu, you will stay there for a lifetime and for several generations and expand your investments there. I welcome you to join us in the story of investing in Tamil Nadu and both growing prosperous yourself and helping the state of Tamil Nadu grow prosperous as well. Thank you very much.